Hello and welcome everybody out to our December Game of the Month discussion in January for the one and only Mega Man X for Super Nintendo, and then later re-released on PS2, GameCube, Xbox One, PS4, PC. Technically DOS had a release as well, but we won't talk about that piece. No, we are going to talk about that piece of crap. It's Mega Man X. But Switch, PS4, all that good stuff. Anyway, joining me today for discussion number 31 is the amazing SMWiz and Sir Lols. Thank you both so much again for joining us this month for the discussion.
Always a pleasure.
Good to be here.
All right, so Mega Man X, I believe this one came out in, was it 93 or 94 here in North America? I don't remember.
I think it was 93 in the US.
I think so. I don't remember off the top of my head. So, just go into the comments, actually, yes, and that is A-okay. But anyway, this game was one of my favorites growing up on Super Nintendo. We would rent this game all the freaking time. I think we rented this game at least 20, 30 times back in the day. And then after the N64 came out, they were having a clearance of Super Nintendo games at Walmart, and we ended up picking this game up for like $5. And that's when I finally actually owned Mega Man X1. And unfortunately, I don't still have that copy, but I have picked up some other copies since.
And that is a steal of a deal.
Including that I Am 8-bit one that Wiz is showing off over there. $100 shelf talker, don't regret it one bit.
Dude,
don't regret it.
Dropping price tags.
Hey, that's how much it was, man. I don't regret it.
We don't need everybody thinking we're rolling around like ballers in here, okay?
Well, you see, I make YouTube content, so people assume that anyway, regardless. So,
all right.
Anyway, so, Wiz, what was your first experience with Mega Man X? We'll start with you because I know that Sir Lols is Mega Man X newcomer, so we're gonna have to give some dedicated attention to that in here in a minute.
Yeah, for us, it was renting as well, and I think what it was actually my first Mega Man game ever. I hadn't played the original series before playing Mega Man X, but
that is hard to go back to the original after that.
But worth it, I think.
I agree.
But I mean, especially for Mega Man 2, like that was the one that connected. But yeah, Mega Man X, we rented it a ton. Didn't own it until I was in high school and picked up this copy at a yard sale.
Very nice.
So, yep. So yeah, love it. We rented subsequent, X2 that came out and stuff, and just been a fan ever since.
Yeah, X2 and X3 rentals were up there as well, but not as much as the first one. I loved the first one.
Oh no, first one. I mean, and we'll get into it, but first one is just
absolutely. All right. Oh, we also didn't mention that I also got a re-release or a remake on PSP, but again, we'll talk about that in a minute. But all right.
I was like, you want to talk about like Mega Man Extreme on the Game Boy and Game Boy Color?
Those are curious releases, I'm not gonna lie. But anyway.
Oh, I forgot to grab that. Anyways, never mind. Go
on. they're not Mega Man X, so it doesn't matter. They're not the first Mega Man X. But Zachary, how was it?
It was different. For those that don't know, not only was this the first time I played Mega Man X, I would say this was the first time I've ever played a Mega Man game. We did play the 3D one, but I'm counting that as a separate thing. Like that's a
wholly different thing.
yeah. As far as 2D Mega Man go, this is my first time playing it.
Well, it's a good one to start off with, if you ask me. So I'm glad we finally got you in there. And you got the Mega Man X Legacy Collection on Steam, so you get the first 4. So, like, that's just... You want to stop there, you're good.
Like, I mean, if he wants to stop after Mega Man X1, I think he's played a pretty incredible game.
No. You gotta play X2. You gotta at least play X2. I think X2 is objectively the best Mega Man game.
All right, I'll at least do that much.
It's like Mega Man X1 may be my favorite, but I have to say I think X2 is the best game.
Yeah, and that's maybe fair to say because I'm like there are things that are your favorite, and then there are things that are objectively good, and those
Yeah.
don't always align, you know?
No, they
Yeah.
don't. They don't. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's
That's
okay to
okay.
like bad things. I mean, I love battle tanks.
But
Oh, I
yeah, and not even necessarily saying bad, but it's good for
Okay,
or
I
it's possible
disagree.
for the
Battle
favorite.
Tanks is amazing. It is both good game and
Uh,
a favorite.
hey, you're asking the wrong person here because my dad was a tank commander in the army, so I'm predisposed to like anything with tanks in it.
Yeah. Tanks are amazing, especially if it's Mad Max, but tanks.
Anyway, back to
Yeah,
Mega
but
Man
anyway,
X.
Anyway, back to Mega
back to
Man.
Mega
Mega
Man.
Man
What
X.
I'm saying is like, we can argue whether or not X2 is objectively better. Mega Man X is still a fantastic game.
It is.
And,
It is a great game. Yes, it is a great game, and it's really a great thing to be able to say, considering by this point in the Mega Man franchise, I think that some franchise fatigue had begun to set in because you had the original Mega Man game came out in 1987 here in the US. I don't know if it released a year earlier in Japan or anything, but it came out with 5 sequels after that. So Mega Man 1 through 6 all came out on the NES. And having played through all 6 of those games, not when they released, but in the time since, it's like you could tell that the franchise was just really beginning to struggle. And some of the later Mega Man games, like 4 and 5, are like pretty forgettable to me. I really dislike 4 though. It, eh. And then 6 was just kind of a curiosity. And so when Mega Man X came out, it was just like a complete revitalization. You get faster movement, you have bigger areas to a degree, bigger enemies, bigger enemy sprites, and just new, not really new abilities because you could charge your gun in Mega Man, but like you didn't get charge secondary weapons, if I recall. It's been a while since I played them, but I don't believe that's a thing. You lose out on the slide move, but I don't really miss that personally.
you lose out on Rush too, which was a really interesting move.
I didn't really care for Rush though, to be honest. Like, just because of the way the original Mega Man games were with all the menuing, like activating Rush was always kind of a chore to me.
Yeah, I see that.
But adding in wall climbing was also another big thing for the X games,
Yeah.
to add to more movement and more mobility, and it added a lot of verticality to the Mega Man formula. So I really enjoyed it. Like, I thought it was just such a cool upgrade because I had played Mega Man 1, 2, and 3 before playing Mega Man X. Had a friend that had an NES, so we would play the original Mega Man quite a bit. But it's like, nah, dude, Mega Man X, dude, we're not playing your old Mega Mans anymore. We're going to X.
I mean, I still think there's some value, at least in Mega Man 2 and 3.
Well, I mean,
Know?
this was like 6-year-old me, like,
Yeah, I
was
okay,
like
I get that, I
6-year-old
get
me.
that. But yeah,
It's in the title, Mom. It's extreme.
well, how many kids were confused? Because I'll say it, when I saw Mega Man X, I read that as Mega Man 10, and I was like,
Mhm.
where are the other 9? Like,
Yeah.
walked around the video rental store and they had a couple, but like there was no, 7 or 8 or 9 to be had
Yeah,
anywhere.
there's no 7, 8, or 9.
You know?
Yeah, we didn't even
Uh,
get a 9 till like, what,
and
2009?
yeah. I don't think I actually started calling it Mega Man X until he had a guest appearance in the Mega Man cartoon show, and it's like, oh, it's not 10, it's X. Okay.
We're not Roman here.
Yeah, I called it Mega Man X because I wasn't too up on Roman numerals when I was that young. And so, like, my parents, I believe, were like, "Oh, you want to rate Mega Man 10?" I was like, "It's Mega Man X. What the frick are you talking about? It's Mega Man X." But no, the naming convention definitely was confusing because they did use Roman numerals for the original Mega Man series.
hmm
Yeah, that would be confusing then.
Yeah, so
Why'd
I
you
don't
use a
remember if
letter that's
all of
also a
them did it.
number?
I don't think all of them did it though. I think it was just like 4, 5, and 6 that used Roman
Yeah,
numerals.
because I
Because I
was
think
like,
2 and 3 used actual numerals. I think it was just 4, 5, 6 that used Roman numerals, and that just
was it?
adds even more confusion.
See, and I'm being lazy because they're there on my shelf, but I want to say wasn't it the Game Boy titles that used the Roman numerals, and the NES ones used are Latin English ones?
You know, I mean, I believe the Game Boy ones used Roman numerals as well.
Because that's the thing is like, so my first like quote unquote main series Mega Man game was actually Mega Man 2 on Game Boy, and I thought that was a Roman numeral.
Yeah, I believe it is the Game Boy ones that used Roman numerals because it
The Game
looks
Boy ones
like
use the Roman numerals,
yeah, the NES ones use just regular
numbers.
numbers. Yes, that's what it appears to be. So I believe you are correct there. Quick Google search for the win here. So yes,
Yep.
it was the Game Boy ones that used Roman numerals. So that is where my confusion comes in. Okay, cool. Problem solved. No one needs to actually ask. Good stuff.
Yeah. Anyways, no, that was just me as a kid, seeing the X and thinking it was a 10, and just being confused why when I walked around the game section in the video rental store I couldn't find the other Mega Man titles. But no, that's awesome. I don't know. We gave, at some point we gotta let Sir Lowell's tell us his thoughts on this game coming into it as a newcomer, because we're talking about the leap from Mega Man to Mega Man X. But this is all brand new for him. I'd love to hear
let's
thoughts on some of
let's
we
hear 'em.
talked about the weapons or the movement tech, and I'm kind of curious thoughts on that.
Yeah, I would love to hear for someone playing it for their first time in 2024.
Yeah, I think it's
I'll interject one thing for this anyone watching this. The only spoiler we gave him was to do Chill Penguin first. And then we told him he's gonna be on his own. That's all we did.
Yeah.
Yep, that's true.
Because we're not heartless, okay?
Well, I mean,
I'm glad you did.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. It was like a roguelike before that was a thing, all right? Kind of feels that way, but yeah, like a lot of parallels to like the Metroid style. If you start weak and then you progress, and if you had just changed the sprites off of Mega Man, told me it was an indie game, I believe you, because it plays very well, even by today mechanics, I would say. Like it's classic, it's like you got your jumps, your wall jumps, and you can shoot. The only thing I don't like is I can't shoot straight up, but I think that's just a carryover from Metroid, Super Metroid,
and from that era, really.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
it's
because there were several instances where I'm really bad with the names, so I'm gonna butcher this, and I'm sorry, but like the eagle guy, like those little claw things that would grab you. It's like fire up, and because it happened at least like twice where one grabbed me and then I fell off the side and I died. So
furious button mashing.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fun hearing you talk about it with this being your first experience, though, because I mean, I've played this game into oblivion to the point where I do no upgrade runs, make it a challenge again.
And Buster only runs. I've seen you do that.
Buster only runs aren't a challenge anymore. I've done those so many times now that those aren't even a challenge.
For some of the bosses, I can agree with that. Dude, doing a Sigma Buster only is miserable.
It's time consuming. It's
miserable.
That's what makes it miserable. It's just time consuming. It's not that it's hard, it's time consuming.
Kind of feel that way about the animal left my head, the cloak guy, the chameleon. That guy was annoying to fight.
Here's the funny thing. We talked about this. Sting Chameleon is one of those guys who, like, when we played this game as a kid, was absolutely miserable. And a couple of years ago, I was watching a GDQ run of this game, and there is a very easy strat to completely cheese him. Basically, you just keep him stun locked the entire fight.
Yeah.
And like my jaw hit the floor, and I was like, because it looked easy, and then I went and tried it, and it is.
It is nice and easy.
I'm gonna have to try that then. That guy was
Boomer Kuwanger's weapon. You stand under him with Boomer Kuwanger, and you start turning left and right and firing, and he'll get hit, drop, and hop back up, and get hit, drop, and he just does it the rest of the fight. He never attacks you again. I'm like, oh my goodness.
So I mean, that's the speedrunner method. Like, even if you're doing it casually, you just stand in the middle of the room, point in the direction he's in, shoot Boomer Kuwanger's weapon. He'll fall, jump to the other side. You just turn around and Yeah.
Yeah.
it's
Well,
just-
see, I didn't have that when I fought him because that
Yeah.
wasn't the order. So he
Yeah.
was going to the top left or top
Yeah,
right of
I
the
was gonna
screen,
say,
and I'm like,
that's
just shoot him.
that's another thing. Knowing you were going into this totally blind, and the only thing we told you was chill penguin. I was very curious what your level order was going to be because
We should have asked him throughout the month.
Yeah.
we should have asked. I would have been. I was just curious to know like your boss order progression, how you went through this game.
What was it? I did obviously the penguin first.
Yep.
What was the next one? I did the eagle guy,
Okay.
and then
That's a good one to start with.
That's
well,
actually that's my favorite second one to do.
That is my order
Yeah.
as well. Penguin,
uh,
Eagle,
what was the guy that gives you fire? I did
Flame
him.
Mammoth.
Flame Mammoth.
Yeah,
he's
Flame
kind of
Mammoth
the
was.
outlier, and like you could just throw him in anywhere.
Yeah, he was super easy to beat, and then Chameleon. After
Oof.
that,
Oof.
I haven't fought them all. If
Oh.
I'm honest, I struggled. I had to turn on baby mode, which broke my heart because I like to play the game as it is. So I played on the Steam version, which
Yeah,
has
yeah.
baby mode.
Yeah.
So regretfully, I had to turn on
beginner
baby mode
mode.
near the end.
I
Yeah.
mean, look, if that had been available to us as kids, we would have all done it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
It's like this is the thing. Ice and I have the benefit of having played this game for like 30 years. So
Yeah. I had
there's
to
no
cram it
shame
in
in a
between a
newcomer
month.
playing on an easier setting. Because I mean, this is from the age of get good or get wrecked, right? These games don't hold your hand.
Yeah, and it has that game that feels like it's designed to be hard to make it longer than it actually is.
Mm-hmm.
And which it pulls it off, but it was hard.
It's
was
a
hard.
thing of a little bit of rote memorization, so you know
Yeah.
where enemies are, what's coming up next, so that you can prepare for it.
Yeah.
And then also learning movement and attack patterns on different things.
Yeah.
So like, and that's just how old school games are, right?
Yeah. It
but
is.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. For me, I always chill penguin first, and then I'll do storm eagle second. And I do that. We haven't talked about this yet, but I do it because of the upgrades that are available. So you get your boots in the first level, so you can dash. You go to Storm Eagle, you get the
Helmet.
energy tank, and you get the helmet, and you can get those first run. You don't have to go back for those.
And the heart tank.
And the heart tank, yep. So you get 3 upgrades in that level before you even get a weapon, which is nice. And then I will a lot of times do which I kind of waffle between doing Spark Mandrill or Flame Mammoth next.
Mm-hmm.
It's for same thing. I'm going after easy upgrades that'll help me in the run and don't require me to come back later. So I'll knock out those guys as 3 and 4, and I kind of flip flop between the order that I take them in. And then after that, it's Armored Armadillo, and oh man, who we go after that? Then to the Octopus, and then to Boomer Quanger, and then to Sting Chameleon last. And at that point, like, you can get most things first run, so then your post cleanup is really short.
Mm. Yeah. For me, if I'm just doing 100% run, it's always Penguin, Eagle, because one of the best features of Mega Man X that we haven't even talked about yet is that there's dynamic things that happen in levels depending on which bosses you've already finished. So if you beat Storm Eagle, Sparkman Drill's level doesn't have the electricity running through the floors anymore because Storm Eagle's ship crashes into his power plant
and breaks it.
And so the mid-level boss no longer has his electric attack either. And so it just makes it
makes it super easy.
Makes it a lot easier to get through.
Same thing with doing Chill Penguin first, and then Flame Mammoth stage. The lava and the floor is gone.
Yep, makes it easier to get through, and also makes it so you can get the heart tank underneath the platforms that are on the lava.
So that's why that was, because when I was there, I fell off the conveyors, and I was like, the floor's not hurting me. Why are these conveyors here?
If you had gone to him before you did Chill Penguin, it would have been lava.
Yep.
Okay.
All lava.
And Beating Launch Octopus adds water into Stink Chameleon stage to allow you to get the heart upgrade more easily. If you know some tricks, you can still get it even without that. But that's speedrunner crap, so you know.
Yeah. Which, by the way, is always the one that messes me up. Every time when I want to do the 100% run and I go to get the Hadouken and it's not there, I just face palm and I was like, I forgot the heart container on Sting Chameleon again. Like every time.
Yeah.
Every time I forget that stupid heart container.
It's a mind block at this point.
And so, yeah, Penguin, Eagle. I usually do Sparky next, then Armadillo, and I always save Mammoth for last because he's just kind of there. Like that's the problem.
He's easy. I just like because I like getting the upgrade. You know.
Yeah. That's the cool thing about this. Like,
because the other thing is, you know, that when you get the upgrade from Mammoth, then it means you don't have to go back to Boomer Quanger stage because you'll have the ice sled and you can just get that heart piece that's on the outside of his tower on the first go.
Yep. Yes, you can. So, I mean, I go back and forth on those ones. But I'm curious if Zachary did that. Did you find the arm cannon upgrade in Flame Mammoth stage, or did you get it from Zero?
I found it in Flame Mammoth, I believe. I know I found something in there, so I assume that's what you're talking about.
With the worst jump in the game.
Yeah, that's such a terrible jump. It really is.
Is there anything as heartbreaking as hitting that first block and dropping and knowing you have to exit the level?
Because the block breaks, so you can no longer grab on. It's just awful. I hate that jump. It really is bad. But anyway. So that's another cool thing I thought was really neat about Mega Man X1. Like, you could find the upgrade in the level, but if you don't find it, it is given to you in the Zero cutscene, which is super cool. And so just really cool dynamics to it. Like, you just are able to... You're rewarded for exploring, but you're not limited if you don't. Like, really nice feature, in my opinion. But... yeah, if I'm doing Buster only runs, I do them in whatever the frick order I want to, because it doesn't matter. Like, if you're doing Buster only, I like to make it so I can't get any of the upgrades that require special weapons, so I can't go back to Chill Penguin stage.
Yeah.
I'm not good enough at doing the wall jump to get Boomer Quanger's heart tank. Because you can wall dash out and flip the bottom edge of it and climb up and get it if you're good. I'm not that good at wall jumping, so
no, that one's a lot harder than the one on Spark Mandrill. Because like, you know, the Spark Mandrill one you can get the first time around. You don't need Boomer Quanger's weapon.
Yep. And so yeah. Anyway, so you could get like 3 of the E tanks and like all but 1 or 2 of the heart tanks, depending on how good you are at wall jumping. And so it's just fun. But you mentioned the Hadouken, so I think we should mention that for anyone that hasn't ever played Mega Man X. If you get every single upgrade in the game, you redo Armored Armadillo stage 5 times total, and you jump to the top above his boss door, and there will be a secret capsule that comes up with Dr. Light wearing Ryu's headband, and he gives you a Hadouken. So you input down, forward, just like you would in Street Fighter, and you will perform a Hadouken, but you have to be at full health, but it basically one-hit kills everything.
Okay, I was gonna make a Hadouken joke when you said that earlier, but it's like, no, it's got to be something different. And it's like, it really is
it
the
legitimately
Hadouken.
Right?
It
they
is
own
legitimately
Street
the
Fighter,
Hadouken.
And they put that in there as an Easter egg.
Yeah, and he does say it. He goes, Hadouken!
Yep, he does it.
That's hysterical.
Yeah, you hit a boss with it. It's a one-hit kill.
Yeah, it's one-hit kill every boss. But again, you have to be at full health to pull it off.
Yep.
As soon as you take any damage, you can no longer do it. It's like the magic sword from Zelda. And so Mega Man X2 introduced the Shoryuken as its Easter egg. And that one's a lot harder to pull off if you're not good at fighting games. But it's also another cool Easter egg. And I'm sad that they just discontinued it there. Like, it would have been kind of cool if they'd kept that trend going throughout the franchise. Just introduce a Street Fighter special move as a little bonus. But they
would have just been to stick with those 2 and keep putting them in each Mega Man game. That would have been funny.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been. But, I mean, they introduced Ultimate Armors and, like, the Z-Saber and different things like that instead, which it works, but it's not as... I don't know. It's not as funny, not as cool, I guess.
No,
maybe they were worried it would stop being a joke and actually just become a feature if it stayed. It's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, I don't know. Either way, it was a really cool addition, and it's fun to mess with, and obviously it's used in speedruns, 100% speedruns to great effect. Um, One thing I really liked about Mega Man X as well, compared to some prior Mega Man games, and then obviously what came after, boss rush. So, typical Mega Man staple is that you refight all the bosses in the final stages. And so with Mega Man X, they just introduced each boss again throughout the 3 Sigma Palace stages. And you would just fight through them as mid-level bosses essentially until you get to the end boss of that level. And I liked that. I liked how it felt more word I'm looking for here. It felt more
It,
deliberate.
it felt more like you were storming a palace rather than the old Wily fights where you just step into a room and there's all these doors and you're like, why would I go into any of these?
Yeah, let's just skip past all this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that's how every Mega Man X game was after that. After the first one, you had the 8 teleporters. You just go into each one, then you go and fight final boss. And it's like, the way Mega Man X did it has always been my favorite, because it's like, in Sigma Palace 1, you fight Boomer Coinger again, because you have a couple of other things that happen in that level. And then Sigma Palace 2, I believe you had Storm Eagle, Chill Penguin, and Flame Mammoth? No, Flame Mammoth's in the third one. No, you had Storm
Archangel?
Eagle and
No,
Chill Penguin and Sting Chameleon.
Think Chameleon.
Yeah, Sting Chameleon, I believe. No, Sting Chameleon's in the third one too.
No.
No, there's 5 of them in the third level. That's right. So yeah, it is just Chill Penguin and Storm Eagle.
Okay.
And then in Sigma Palace 3, you have Armadillo, Chameleon, Octopus, Spark Mandrill, and Flame Mammoth. And you go through all 5 of them in a single level before fighting a dinosaur car. Freaking dinosaur car, dude. Anyway, so we've talked about our preferred boss orders. What did you think of the bosses themselves? Because I thought they were freaking cool, like being able to see like these big giant boss sprites. Because in most Mega Man games, from what I recall, the sprites were always the same size as you until you got to like the Wily machine at the end. Then it was like a big background sprite because the NES hardware. You had to use tricks like that.
Most of them. I think Gutsman was larger than Mega Man's sprite.
Not by much though. He was still like just
But
as tall.
yeah. But yeah, anyways, yeah, to have these, like just kind of gargantuan relative to Mega Man, things that you're fighting is cool.
Yeah. And
I think their mechanics were pretty fun. It was challenging, but they do have patterns. So, like I kept getting really low in health, and then it's like, okay, focus. Don't
focus mode activate.
Yeah, focus mode activated. But it worked, and I was like, okay, just take the boss. So yeah, like I said, I unfortunately didn't beat all of them yet, but outside of Chameleon, I really enjoyed their mechanics, because sure, it's kind of annoying at first. You go, oh, this is stupid, but then once you actually sit down and pay attention, you're like, okay, I got this.
Yeah.
I like that some of them have, kind of little bonus pieces in the fight. Like Armored Armadillo, you hit him with Spark Mandrill's weapon and you blow his armor off.
A
Oh,
lot more
Flame
dynamic.
Mammoth, you hit him with Boomer Coanger and you chop his trunk off.
oh no.
And
then
then
he
he can't
becomes
fling
Flame
stuff.
Pig.
Yep, you got the Flame Pig who can't fling stuff at you anymore.
Yep. And the same thing with Launch Octopus. You use Boomer Coanger's boomerangs on him. You launch off his tentacles, so he can't shoot his super missiles at you. And he can't do his little
Whirlwind,
yeah, spinny attack thing either. And so, and then of course, Chill Penguin, you hit him with Flame Mammoth's weapon, he lights on fire.
which is just funny to watch.
It is fantastic.
I'm gonna have
And
to
then
go
of
back
course
and watch that.
Sparky, you shoot him with Chill Penguin's weapon, he can't ever
He
move. He
freezes,
freezes.
yeah.
Like it's the dynamicness of Mega Man X like that. Like that's what made it so much fun to really dive into and learn more about as well. Because you just didn't know a lot of this stuff the first time you played through it. And then when you discover it, you're like, yes! And so that's the other thing too, like just felt good. Like you felt powerful and like they do a good amount of damage when you hit them with their weakness weapons in this game, and that's something that gets lost in some of the later entries, Mega Man X8, um, where it just doesn't even feel worth it to use their weakness weapons sometimes. And so
Yeah, it's the
yeah.
difference between good and great game design, right? Like good game design just gives the player a challenge, but great game design says, okay, you got these tools, now do something epic. You know, like it doesn't talk down to you. You know, it's like, hey,
Yeah.
what happens
Essentially.
if you try catching a frozen enemy on fire and they stay
Yeah, and
on
that's
fire?
kind of, it goes back to, Ice talking a little bit earlier too about the jump from the Mega Man series to this. Because like the Mega Man series had, we're calling it weakness weapons. I mean, basically it's, a slightly more complex rock, paper, scissors, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But like in the Mega Man games, all it did was additional damage,
Hmm?
It didn't do
Ah.
like special knockbacks or anything. It just was a faster way to kill them. Whereas in
Especially
Mega
in
Man
Mega Man
X,
2, Metal Saw.
yeah, yep.
Metal Saw was everybody's weakness weapon.
Yeah, I don't know. Bizarre. Anyways, but with Mega Man X, yeah, they made it, dynamic. So not only were you doing additional damage, but like you triggered special effects, you did special animations, you got knockbacks, you got all sorts of cool stuff that you don't get otherwise. That just made the fights, I think, more interesting and more fun.
Yeah.
Yep. And it
Yeah,
just
'cause
brings back the whole purpose of games is to just feel good about what you're doing in my mind, because it's like, yes.
yeah, when you put it together and you feel like you're doing something more, like you said, Wiz, it's not just bonus damage. It feels like you're actually solving a puzzle, that
Yeah.
like that was hidden to you, but now you got these pieces and you're like, oh, fire and ice don't like each other very much.
Yeah. But nah, it was good. And it ties into like the dynamics of the levels changing too, and just I can never get enough of how good that
Like a lot of
was.
thought went into that,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Like more thought than they needed to, especially for the time. But like
Yeah.
it's so good.
And I
And like
mean,
I love that too.
it's
Like you mentioned like earlier, yeah, you take Storm Eagle out first, and then when you go to Spark Mandrill, his ship is crashed into the power plant. It's broken. You can see it in the background.
mhm.
You know, it's just awesome. These little touches.
Yeah. And there's a lot more, like there's a ton of little touches like that just make this game so cool, because even in the intro level, when you're walking past the light posts, it'll get brighter and darker as you go past them. And that feature's broken in the GameCube and PS2 version, unfortunately.
Aww.
But like it's really cool just to be walking past them and like have the screen get brighter and darker, brighter, darker. Like it's a cool feature. Oh man, like that, like considering it's like a mid release on Super Nintendo, like midway between its life cycle, like it just still is so impressive. Like it's not the best graphically looking game, but it's up there. Like it's
I
really
mean,
good.
it's beautiful sprite animation. Like the
For
sprites.
sides, for one of the side scrollers, like some of the RPGs are just absolutely gorgeous
Oh
on Super
yeah,
Nintendo.
for sure for an
Yeah,
RPG.
that's
It's like
different though, because
It
with an
is, it is.
RPG, I don't want to say they don't have to. Obviously, they have to worry about the meta, but it's kind of like the difference between a shooter and a racing game, right? The
Yeah,
racing
of
game
course.
can afford to make that budget work for the graphics. A shooter cannot because the player can look anywhere. So
Yeah,
yeah.
true
I
enough.
kind of feel like that applies even to sprite games.
It does. It does. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't make use of any Mode 7 assets for Super Nintendo. I don't really think it could have done anything with them anyway.
It couldn't have done anything meaningful. Like
Exactly.
it's a
I
side
mean,
scroller.
Well, I mean,
yeah, the
Super
only
Mario
thing
World
like
does for some of its boss fights.
where you get, yeah, because is it X2 or X3 that has the logo in wireframe like rotating and spin into place?
X2.
X2, that's what I
Yeah,
thought.
X2
And
and
it's like,
X3 introduce the CX4 expansion chip. It's a
mhm,
Capcom proprietary expansion chip, if memory serves. And so it was just like a math coprocessor
mhm,
to let some 3D stuff work, because you fight some 3D wireframe enemies in both those
yeah,
games.
yeah.
And
So you talk about Mode 7. I mean, I think that's the only thing Mode 7 would have possibly added, and
yeah,
it's not necessary.
it's not in the slightest.
So
Um But yeah, the sprites are just gorgeous. I love the details on all the enemies. Like you look at the concept art, you look at the sprite in game, and it's like, yeah, they pulled it off. Like they really pulled it off, and it's so
Yep.
cool. And
This-
there's a story in the game as well. Like that's the other
Mhm.
thing that's really well done about it. Like you get a good story. The English translation may piss some people off, but I like it. I think it's good. And like it tells a good story. It tells a compelling story, one that you're interested in, and it's important to me. Like that's an important aspect of any game I ever play. If it doesn't have a great story, I'm a little less interested in it, unfortunately.
I mean, the
But
story's the why, it's the why
Yeah,
of the game.
not
it's
always, but it's still important to me.
here's the why. Dr. Kane is a fool. That's the why.
Sorry, we can't all be as good as Thomas Light.
Well, here's the thing. Look, when you open up the notes and you're like, "Oh, I built a robot. It's gonna be intelligent enough to make its own decisions and have emotions." But I think it's probably the most dangerous thing in the entire world. So I'm gonna leave it on diagnostic mode for 30 years just to make sure that it's safe. And Kane looks at this and goes, "Bet you I could build more of them. Bet you I could improve them." And then literally in the notes in his own journals, like, "I don't really understand everything that's going on here, but I think it's better." And then he lets it out in the world, and oh my goodness, the Reploids are turning on us. And they want to wipe out humanity. It's like, sounds like you're not too good at reading, bro.
Yeah, you are the dumbest smart person I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's the Jurassic Park
Usually-
line. You're so
Yeah.
convinced whether you could, you didn't ask if you should.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. He's like, I don't understand this, but I think I can make it better. It's like, I have doubts.
Man. See, this is one of the reasons why I like the remake on PSP. They made like a 34, 39-minute original video animation for the PSP release. And it's available in your Mega Man Legacy collection, Sir Lulz.
I'll check it out.
It's called The Day of Sigma, and it explains, it gives you a complete backstory leading up to the beginning of the game.
Like the crashed highway or the destroyed highway area?
It gives you, like, Sigma was the leader of the Maverick Hunters before he turned Maverick. And so, like, it shows you, like,
taking
all the characters, like, interacting with X and Zero and, like, being a part of this force to go against any rebelling Reploids.
That's
and
cool.
then it ends with the betrayal by them all,
Yeah.
And then that's when Mega Man X starts. It's like it's just this really cool introduction to the game. And I think that's one of the best things that the PSP remake added to the lore, personally. Like, I just absolutely adore that animation. I wish we had gotten more. Because you're limited by Super Nintendo, obviously, not getting cutscenes. So when Mega Man X4 came out, they added in a ton of cutscenes, beautifully animated anime cutscenes that I really like. I mean, they don't look super great nowadays, but I mean, they're
questionably
90s.
voice acted.
We want to talk about the voice acting. But like beautifully animated anime stuff from the 90s, like it looks great. It's unfortunately limited by PS1 Saturn resolutions, so it's kind of blocky, choppy, but it's whatever. But it just expands on the games and expands on the lore. And if you play the Zero campaign, like you get to understand how Sigma became infected with the virus to begin with, like why he became the way he was. And so, just great way to like tie the franchise together. Like they did a decent job of tying the franchise together in that regard. But yeah, I mean, I think the story of Mega Man X1 is still super solid, regardless of which region you play. If you use a fan translation or the original translation, like it's so good. It's important.
Yeah, it reminds me because, I feel like I always have to touch on this now, which is unfortunate, but good game design is timeless, like I said earlier, like if it was not Mega Man sprites, if it was just other sprites and you told me it was an indie game from today, I would have believed it, because it plays just as good now.
So smooth.
Yep.
So yeah, it's smooth.
couple of quality of life changes that came with X2 and 3, like being able to do automatic wall dashes just by holding down your dash button and jumping, so you didn't have to keep mashing both.
Oh, that's nice.
Starting with the dash in X2 and X3, like that's the worst part of restarting Mega Man X is just not having dash for the first level and a half. But other than that, like I have essentially no complaints with Mega Man X, and part of that might be because I've just played it too many times that even the more annoying stuff doesn't bother me anymore. But it's like when I think about it, like the only real thing that annoyed me about it was just getting cheap shot on like some of the floating platform stuff in the first Sigma level. And they brought that to piss me off in the PSP Vile mode. They brought that back. But I mean, other than that, like the original Super Nintendo version of the game, like I really have no complaints with. I can't really think of anything that I dislike or would critique about that game other than, hey, it would have been nice if you had automatic dash jumps by holding down the dash button. Oh well. It's the first game.
Which is only something that you really, learn by having a first game and playing it and saying, how do we make this better?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like
it's kind of like talking about things. So going into this, it's like I don't know exactly what I, necessarily, want, and because I think for me, it's like I will forever hate that spider boss fight, but because the RNG-ness of it, but watching you play the PSP version and the very first level, having that HUD that displayed your weapon order so you wouldn't have to go to the menu to cycle to get what you want. Like I had this like How I Met Your Mother glass shatter moment where I was like, oh my goodness, why do we not have this in the base game? This is amazing. And every remake since should have this. Like they should patch this into like the Steam, Mega Man collection.
Yeah, that would have been fun. I just looked up so for anyone that's not familiar with me or my channel, I've been at this for a long time now. My YouTube channel is now officially 10 years old. But Mega Man X was one of the very first retro reviews I ever wrote. I published it on a couple places, but it has a permanent home right now, either in video form on my YouTube channel or on the website I co-own, Game Tyrant. But I have my Mega Man X review up there, and I just was browsing through it real quick here while you guys were chatting. And it's like, yeah, I really have nothing listed as a complaint of this game. Just to like refresh my own thoughts.
This is us, though, who's been playing it for 30 years and stuff. Curious to hear Zachary's thoughts on what this game could or should do better.
Yeah, I would like to hear that too.
So the first thing, this I wouldn't say this is necessary. This is just a me thing. I understand they might not want to do diagonal aiming, but I would like at least being able to aim up because I find that annoying. I say that's optional because whatever, it's just a preference. The one thing I do think is an actual problem is how like enemies respawn the nanosecond they're off screen.
Yeah.
So and
push left.
Yeah, you push
left.
And sometimes you don't have a choice. Like they hit you and they bump back, and then you go for it, and they're back again. In fact,
look, the code says when you get to this sprite, you load enemy. Okay, you cross the threshold.
Yep. See, I don't find it as egregious in the first Mega Man X, but
look at this garbage. Look at this garbage. I punch him to death, and there he is again.
Hold on.
What is this?
You gotta do that for us again. You gotta do it for us again. We didn't get to see it. You gotta do it for us again. You gotta do it.
Oh, okay.
Gotta do it again. Gotta do it again.
Yeah, you gotta click on the watch stream to get the video to show. I think was.
Yeah, I wasn't on that. I wasn't on that. Gotta do it again.
Sorry. Just a second. Share screen.
All right, here we go.
Okay.
I'm gonna guess because you said punch. It's got to be one of the right armor.
So I just killed him, and there he is again.
Oh, don't you went left? You can't go left.
Yeah. Yeah. That outside of that, I think the game is actually near flawless as far as side scrollers go. But that irks me. Like, I walked left 2 pixels. Why is he back?
Look,
It's even worse in Vile mode. You don't even have to walk. He'll just come back.
We're playing by Super Mario Brothers rules. You only go right.
Yeah, I guess.
You want to go left? That's for boss fights when the room is locked.
Yep,
yeah,
it's true.
So outside of that, like I said, aiming up, I would prefer that, but I think that's optional. The difficulty, I think, is fine because it's just the type of game it is. You know, it's supposed to be hard by design.
Mm-hmm.
Moving left, respawn enemies is too far. I'm sorry.
It's unfair in its difficulty.
Sometimes you do that intentionally, though, when you're trying to farm for health or ammo.
Yeah, I guess. But still, like, at least more than 2 pixels.
Yeah.
It's good. Good stuff. Yeah. Oh, man.
You know, so what we haven't talked about that needs to be addressed, though, is the music in this game.
Yeah.
Oh,
Dude,
yeah.
The soundtrack.
It is one of my top soundtracks.
I was
all
like,
games.
Which theme is the best in this game, and why is it Storm Eagle, hands down?
Dude, Mega Man X, like, it's Super Nintendo. You're limited to what is it, MIDI format for Super Nintendo?
The MIDI chiptune,
and it's just so good. It's so good. Like, I can't think of a single theme in X1 that, like, was a letdown. Like, in later Mega Man games, there's a lot of crappy music. There's some stuff about X3's tunes that I just find annoying. The Saturn and PS1 version of X3 redoing the music orchestral is just kind of eh. X4 and X5 have some forgettable tunes. X6 is like all but forgettable except for like the boss fight theme. X7, X8 pretty forgettable as well. But it's like X1, man, it's just pumping the entire game. Like, it's so good.
Yeah, it is fantastic.
And having the different themes for the Sigma Palace stages too, like, it builds the atmosphere so well. Like, it's so good. But yes, Storm Eagle, hands down, best one. Definitely. Gotta love it. I have a hard time picking a second favorite one because I really like them. Like, I like Launch Octopus. I like Penguin.
Penguin's is good.
Armored Armadillos is like the only one that kind of feels out of place yet doesn't, because it's kind of like the song makes you think of like kind of a wacky machine going on, which kind of fits the mining aspect a bit, I guess.
Especially when you hop on those mine carts and go flying through the level.
Yeah, like, I think that's probably the only one that doesn't quite fit right if I'm going to be absolutely critical about the music, but even then it's like, that's nitpicking. It's complete nitpicking at it. I really like Penguins, though.
Oh, yeah. I don't have enough input on the soundtracks, unfortunately, so you two are on your own with this one.
You were too honed in on the gameplay to enjoy what was happening in the background.
I had to be focused.
I don't blame you, man. You know, like I said, this is a game that, like, it's legitimately hard when you're new to it, because so much of it is about rote memorization and pattern recognition. So it's like, yeah, you're dialed in. If you were noticing the music in the background, you probably weren't paying attention to the game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so the music,
it's so good, but yeah,
this game,
putting the soundtrack on in the background while you work, it gets you pumped.
Yes, it does. It's up there with Command & Conquer soundtrack for me. But for anyone that didn't know, this game got an MS-DOS release back in the 90s. And oh dear.
Oh my.
Oh dear. Like, even when you have the right hardware to run this game, it never runs right. It is never a smooth experience to run this game on any hardware. Like, even if you have like the exact specs for a PC that this asks for, it it's never smooth. It never runs smooth, and that's one of the reasons why it is just such an unfortunate game. And then if you have hardware that's too powerful, it runs way too fast and becomes unplayable. So it's like just an absolutely awful port of a game.
So
And like
you already
they
anticipated me. You're gonna thwart my plans. I was like, oh, you get the specs you want, it won't run. Fine, I'll throw it in my Windows XP machine and run it like a boss.
no, it runs too
No,
fast then. Like
too fast.
there's
It's one of those. It's one
it's
of those that's running off the clock speed, and so when you
yep,
put it in an
yep.
overpowered machine,
That's
it
one of the
moves faster than your human brain can
it's one of the
handle.
cool things about this version though is that it has selectable play speeds between slow, normal, and fast. And so if your hardware's too fast, you have to play it on slow. And then you kind of get like a playable speed. But again, it's never smooth. It's always janky. The animations are messed up. Um like it uses the same sprites and assets, but they're not right. Like the way they feel
Imported or
and the
use
way it
them.
feels to play them, like it's all wrong. It's just all wrong. I
So
did
what
a
you're saying
stream.
is,
I did a stream of this game way back when. And it was just awful game challenge number 1, I think is what it's called on my channel, because I was gonna play like some really truly awful games, but it's like I become too much of a salt monster as I get older, so it's like I'm
You
never going back to
you are
that.
never salty. How dare you?
um, but one of the curious aspects about that port is the music, because it can make use of PC sound cards and different sound fonts, and so you can get some really interesting results out of it for it. And that's about the only thing that is worth looking into about that port, in my opinion, is like just listening to the way those tunes are represented. I don't think they're better, personally, but you know, I had an argument with someone on Twitter like 10 years ago about it. Like, no, the music's so good. It's like, dude, you're a fool. Whatever. But
It's just interestingly different.
it's interesting. It's different, and it's not terrible necessarily. Some people might find it terrible. But it's interesting. But yeah, it's such an awful version of the game. Oh, very bad,
Well,
very bad. They
if
also got
we're
rid of the dynamic lights, but they made the Sigma fight at the end so ridiculously easy. Like you could actually just wall climb up because his claws never get to the edges of the walls.
oh man, that breaks that fight.
It breaks it so much. Like you just climb up, charge shot him. Like you just sit there climbing up to the top. Like you don't
I
even have
was
to
like,
sit
I
on
mean,
his claw.
I'd
Like it's
it's
so
like I'd
easy.
probably, empty my Storm Eagle before I start doing charge shots.
Well, the only weapons that do damage to the final boss of Sigma are fully charged Buster Shot or Rolling Shield.
Yeah.
None of the other
It's been
weapons do damage. That's why the
and
pixel frame
it's
that you have
been
on your desk is so cool, because they made him in his Rolling Shield armor. So
yeah.
very cool little
It's been so
touch.
long since I fought him with anything else, I forgot that he doesn't take damage from those other
Yeah.
weapons.
But going into the other ports, again, they compiled this game as part of the Mega Man X collection on GameCube, PS2. If you're going to buy the Mega Man X collection, get the PS2 version. It is more faithful to the original Super Nintendo version. The GameCube version implemented some really weird filtering to it, so it just doesn't look anywhere near as good or clean as the Super Nintendo version does, whereas the PS2 version is a very faithful port. Um, the sound effects are a little more messed up. Like everything has a more metallic sound in that collection for the Super Nintendo games. And then, of course, it got rid of those dynamic lights in the first stage. But other than that, very solid versions of the game to have. And you could get the PS2 collection for like $10 or less, usually. And so, X1 through 6, $10, not bad if you want them on an older console. Obviously, they have since been re released on Xbox One, PS4, Switch, and PC. So, I mean, those are obviously the more accessible versions of the game. And they are really well done. Some input latency issues when it first launched. I think they've been mostly cleared up. I don't really see much complaints about it in that regard anymore. And so I ended up picking it up on my Switch, I got a Japanese copy because it actually came with they actually have physical versions of Collection 2 for Switch in Japan. Because in North America, when they released it, you just got the first cart, which had X1 through 4, and then X 5, 6, 7, 8 were download only, which was really lame. So.
That's why I got it on the PS4, was because they did us dirty for some reason like that. I'm like, why would you not put them all on the cart, especially
really
when Japan gets them all on the cart?
It's really
It means you're
dumb.
to do it. You're just making the active choice not to. That's rude.
It is. Because, yeah, Xbox One and PS4 both have 2 discs for X1 through 4 and X5 through 8. And so it was really dumb. But I'm weird. I don't really like having physical discs anymore. If I'm going to have something physical, I want it to be cartridge. So I buy a lot of physical Switch games, even though I'd rather play these games on something else. I just like cartridges, man. I'm sorry. That's my thing.
Oh, yeah, I'm physical. I always get physically if I can.
Yeah.
But the most interesting release is obviously the PSP remake. In 2006-7, I don't remember which year exactly, they gave the game a full 3D remake using a modified version of the Mega Man X8 engine. And so Mega Man X8 felt a little rough around the edges. I just did a retro review for that game on the channel. And I talk about how it just feels really rough, animation-wise, graphically. And so the PSP version is a more polished aspect of it. The animations are a lot smoother. You can see a lot of the X8 DNA in the ride armor. Like, it still feels like the X8 ride armor.
Yeah. Especially the wall jumps, right? They polish those real good.
Oh. I have a lot of complaints about the PSP version of this game.
That's just me poking the bear for any viewers who didn't catch his live stream. Me poking the bear.
It was bad. So again, movement is one of the most important things about Mega Man X. Like, that's what really distinguishes its DNA. And so wall dash jumping, I should say, is an integral aspect of being a high-level player in this game. So, I mean, you wall dash over Flame Mammoth to get away from him without taking damage. Like, you wall dash to get over other things without taking damage and getting around them. And so, for whatever reason, the PSP version has broken wall dash jumps, whatever you want to call them. And I thought I was just going crazy. Like, I thought I was having input latency. I thought I was using bad controllers. I thought I was doing all this. Like, I thought it just couldn't possibly be the game that was wrong, but like, no, like, I changed controllers like what, 3 or 4 times throughout those playthroughs, and it's like, no, it just feels like crap no matter what you use. And so finally I'm looking at other reviews from other people, and they're like, yeah, the wall dash jumps are just broken. Like, they're so much more frame perfect and all this other crap, and it's like, well, okay, glad I'm not alone in that. It's trash. I'm gonna say it though, I don't like the 2.5D look of the PSP remake as much. I wish they had gone back to like PS1 era sprite work instead. Like, I just don't think it looks as good. Just because of how, like, if they had done it now, like with the graphic capabilities that they could have now with it, it'd probably look a lot cooler. But it just looks really kind of ugly to me.
Well, and some of it too, some of the models, I think they took too many liberties in redesigning or interpreting how the sprites would look in a 3D space.
Yeah.
Because, like, there are a bunch of enemies in that game where when I saw them the first time, I went, "What is that?" Even though you've been playing this game for 30 some years, I know where all the enemies are. This thing would pop on the screen and be like, "What is that?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh, he's this guy." But, like, that is absolutely not how I would envision him in a 3D space. Like, that's
No, it's not
very weird.
not pretty.
You know?
Like, I don't think it's very visually appealing.
Like, and I'm completely forgetting the name of them now, but talking about those enemies that, like, zip in, have little spikes on them, will hit you, kind of open their mouth to laugh and then fly off.
Oh yeah, those things.
The PSP, they look so weird.
Yeah, they're dumb. They're derpy.
Did it not have concept art to go off of?
I don't know.
Or did they just not care?
They probably just didn't care, because this is after the original creator left, mind you.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I'm glad the game exists overall, but it's just not pretty to me. I would have preferred if they had gone back to PS1 era sprites. Like, the widescreen presentation is really cool, being able to see more horizontally, but it came at the cost of the verticality,
Mm.
which is another big problem. It's like they
Like,
took the 4x3 frame and then just put the PSP like on that, and so you just lose the
yeah,
height.
because some of it, like playing Chill Penguin and being like, there's a bat up there, and I know there's a bat up there. I can't see him, but I do know he's there.
Hmm.
And so you're just doing lots of jumps just to try and trigger the enemies to come down at you so you
Yeah,
could fight
yeah.
them.
There's a
It's like
lot of
weird. It like kind of like
yeah.
broke the flow of the game.
There's a lot of broken verticality, and the biggest example of that comes from Bow Spider. That fight
Oh
is
man.
so
Yeah,
horrible in the
I'm not gonna
PSP
lie.
version. It's
I
so they
didn't
made
play
it
that
easy.
far. I didn't play it that far in the PSP version.
They made it way
Because
easier, but
I
it's
mean, you'd
ruined.
have to. Like, you'd
It's
have
so
to.
ruined.
You know, with the aspect ratio, you wouldn't be able to see him come. It'd be pure RNG if you know, couldn't, see the whole screen.
Yeah, that's what I mean though. Like the loss of the verticality just really ruins that fight. Um,
Well, that fight
the
sucks anyway, so go ahead and make it easier.
the music on the PSP version I really enjoy. Like I like the take that they did on the tunes there. Um, but this just comes from my own muscle memory. I hate that they took the dash out of Chill Penguin stage. Personally,
Yeah, shuffling the upgrades
they
is an
shuffled the
interesting
upgrades
choice.
very weirdly. So it made it so that the preferred order becomes Mammoth then Penguin.
Hmm.
But I
Well,
mean, that's just nitpicking it again too.
the one thing that the PSP version did that was pretty cool is you can use the escape function even on levels you haven't beat.
Yep, that's nice.
So if you want, you could go get all the armor upgrades before you even fight any of the Mavericks.
Yep, it's true. And then again, being able to use the two weapons effects at the same time just totally breaks the game in such good ways. Oh, it's so nice.
You mean
Oh man.
activating Sting Chameleon so you don't take damage and then run around shooting people while you're invulnerable?
Uh-huh. Like yeah, and then you're using
Super
you could
broken.
use Storm Eagle while you're doing it to just clear the whole
Clear
area
the
too.
screen,
Like it's
yeah.
so good. I do like that they made Storm Eagle's weapon like even more effective than it already was. Like it's just so good. Like I may not like the way it looks, but I really do, or the loss of the verticality, but I really do like the way it plays, other than the broken wall jumps. Like it is still really fun to play, and like you could tell that they cared enough about the franchise and the game. Like it's not some crappy cash grab. Um, and I can appreciate them for that. But like some things were
Oh,
obviously a miss, but it is
you
what
know
it
what's
is.
real interesting though? It talking about the PSP version, what it lost that the Super Nintendo had. The Super Nintendo version, you can go into options and you can remap your controls,
You could do that on
which
the PSP one. You just have to
error.
do it in game. You have to
Oh,
start
in
the
game.
stupid game first.
Okay. I went into options and they're like, "Do you want the sound louder or softer?" And I'm like, "That's what the volume buttons on the PSP are for, my brother. Like,
I know,
where
Yeah.
are my
right?
other options at?" And
Yeah, you have to start the game, then pause it, press right, and then you'll have controls. And it's really dumb.
well, didn't go to that screen at all.
Yep, I hated that. That was not smart. That's the thing too. Like the default controls for dashing on Super Nintendo and PSP are just atrocious. Like,
Well,
who wants
this
to
is
try to
where
press
no, actually,
A?
this is where you and I differ a little bit because yeah, no, I agree with you. I'm not a fan of pressing A so much, but as a kid, I was doing like a claw grip so that I could hit, A,
We
B, and
all
Y
did.
all,
We
you
all
know,
did. It wasn't
you
until
know.
Mega Man Zero came out on Game Boy Advance that I was like, wow, that makes this so much
Well,
easier.
I have a friend who introduced me to remapping the buttons so that R is dash,
Yeah, that's what I
and
use.
I'm like, oh, that's kind of weird, But here's where it's wild. This is where I know you and I disagree because you railed against it during your playthrough. For me, 99% of the time that I'm dashing, I'm double tapping.
Oh, oh, why would you want that imprecision?
Get good, man.
You have the literal
Ooh.
precision of a single button press. Why are you going to rely on if it registers it or not? And then when you're just trying to line
Is
up a
two is
jump and
bigger
it
than
triggers
one.
on its own without you even wanting to do it, it's so terrible. Oh, the fact that
That's
that
the thing,
made
though,
it
is
all
like,
the way through every single X game baffles my mind. Horrible. You
hey,
have a
some
dedicated
of us like the
button.
double tap.
You have a dedicated button.
Yeah, that was in an inconvenient location in the first game.
Well, you realize you can remap buttons.
Yeah.
Sure, it took me like 10 years to figure that out, but
Yeah, ain't nobody got time for that, dude. I'm renting that game as a child. I have only a couple days to play it, all right? If you rent it on Monday, you can keep it for 5 days. If you rent it on Friday, you keep it for 2, okay? You gotta maximize your usage.
oh my gosh, I miss rentals, man.
Yeah, you remember those rental rules?
Dude, yeah, the mom and
When
pops
you
had some
rented a
strange
thing made a
rentals, man.
difference.
Oh man, they had some strange rental rules back in the day.
I mean, like, I get it, right? Because if you're renting it on Monday, you keep it through Friday because, you're not gonna have much time to use it anyways. But if
Yeah,
you're renting it for the weekend, they want it back when the weekend's over.
yep. Oh man, I'm sorry. I think that the loss of video rental stores has been a disservice to society.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, I
But
mean, now we're gonna get on
yeah,
a tangent, but did you see the announcement the other day, ICE, that LG is discontinuing their Blu-ray drives?
yep.
They were
But
the
I mean, they
last
haven't come out with a new model in years, so
no, but
Yeah,
they were
that
still manufacturing them at least, and they were the
yeah, they
last
were.
one.
Yeah, I know it
yeah, that
sucks.
hurts my heart.
It
That hurts.
sucks.
Yeah, yeah, coupling with Best Buy abandoning Blu-rays entirely, it's like they're trying to kill physical media, which is ridiculous.
Well, I mean, physical media has been drowning for years, so I mean, it's been dying a slow death as it is without any of this stuff
This is
happening.
this is where look, and here's the thing. All fandoms are toxic when you're not part of that fandom. I know that's just what it is, right? I know there's a lot of hate for the Nintendo players, but the bulk of their sales are physical. I'm like, keep that ship afloat, Nintendo. We need you.
Like I
Yeah.
said, man, cartridges.
Yeah,
Cartridges are just so good. Like
yeah.
I have I have the very first Atari 2600 game I ever played out on my shelf. It still works 100%.
Yep.
My copy of Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes Disc 2 doesn't work anymore
Sad.
Oh.
because they used crappy media when they pressed the disc and disc 2 just rotted away. I mean, like I don't have a love of physical CD like optical media. Like I don't have a big love of optical media, but I have a huge love of cartridges because they just last forever for me. And I
Yep.
know they don't last forever either, but last a heck of a lot longer than CDs and DVDs have in my case.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently,
Anyways,
I read this the other day. Someone was posting their HD DVD collection online, like, yeah, look at my HD DVD collection, and people were like, hey, make sure you pull those out and use them every now and then because the cases were red, and so the red dye from the case like would actually like
no.
infect the disc
Ooh.
and make them unplayable.
Uh,
Supposedly, that's happened to some people. I don't know the legitimacy of that, but someone was posting about it on this guy's thread, being like, "Hey, this is a serious problem. Like those things die.
hmm,
Like make sure you watch them every once in a while. Make sure they're still good." And it's like,
oh,
eesh,
yeah. Wild, man.
like, oof, it's not good.
No.
Um, that's why reprints are so important, man. Like companies need to reprint this stuff every few decades, but they
Or
have no
letting their
incentive to.
customers back up their copies.
Had to. Um, but anyway, back to the PSP version of Mega Man X. Now that we had that nice little physical media tangent,
Yep.
another cool bonus of the PSP version of Mega Man Maverick Hunter X was that after you beat the game, you have access to a hard mode that makes the game harder, which is kind of cool. They add new patterns to the bosses because the game plays pretty similarly to the Super Nintendo in most regards.
Hmm.
So the hard mode adds some new things into the boss patterns, which are pretty interesting. But then you also get the Day of Sigma animation that I talked about earlier, and then you also get Vile mode, where you play as Vile, the Boba Fett wannabe. And I never beat this mode on the PSP version when it first came out. I made it pretty far, but I never finished it because it pissed me off, I guess, because I don't even remember what my reasons were for not finishing it. But finally beating it on stream during this last month, it pissed me off so much. Like, it's, ugh. Like,
You were a champ for sticking with it.
I love that they included it. I love that they had the thought of making that mode. I hate the implementation so much. Because, again, the thing that makes a Mega Man X game a Mega Man X game is your mobility. And everything about Vile Mode takes away your mobility. 2 of his attacks make him stationary, which is awful. And, like, you're not just stationary for a little bit, you're stuck there for a long time and you just get wrecked for it. It's like you need to jump if you're going to use these attacks, because then your, like, stationary time is cut in half or something. But then they also got rid of him being able to dash, which is even more dumb because he dashes at you when you play as X. Yep. And it's like, the dash is the freaking thing that makes this game part of what it is. And so, like, they make him run faster after you beat a boss, and it's like, I don't care, I want to dash.
Yeah.
But, oh, man, it just...
The thing is, dude, so watching it is kind of interesting, you know, like, because you have the different loadout options before you go into a level, so you can customize yourself for the fight coming up.
Mm-hmm.
But man, the story they implemented for that one is kind of rough.
Stupid. It was pretty stupid.
I don't know which intern was tasked with writing the script, but like there were just a lot of moments where Futurama would pop into my head. You know, the robot devil. You can't have your characters announce how they feel. That makes me feel angry. It was like the first 3 like boss fights that I saw you do. Vile steps up, I hate you, and then you start the fight. It's like, it's an interesting motivation. Just I hate you. No explanation, no expansion or follow up on. Just I hate you, and then start fight. You know,
yeah, it's
like, you know,
the loadout aspect is cool. The fact that it's
weird,
limited was cool,
know?
But it's just the whole implementation of the mode just wasn't well done. It was not well done. Like, I love playing that game as X, despite some of the things I was talking about earlier. Like, I still think it'll be fun to go back and play X every once in a while. Like, I'd rather play the Super Nintendo version, but I think going back and revisiting the PSP version on occasion is pretty cool. But that Vile mode, I never need to touch it again. I'm sorry. I don't find that enjoyable in the least. Like, Vile dies in like 2 hits when you first start. You beat a boss and you get better health resistance, but it's just...
Is the highway the hardest level in Vile mode?
The highway is incredibly hard as Vile, because you die in 2 hits to everything. Like, it's not fun.
Well, there was one point where, you know, they put one of those missile launching turtles on an edge. It's like you literally can't jump past him, but he's down below you, so you can't shoot him. So you have to be at full health so you can damage boost him. You know,
it's easier to damage boost him than kill him. Oh, it was terrible. Like, and I did Vile mode on normal and hard for the retro achievement set. Like, 100%ed that game on retro achievements because I'd already 100%ed the Super Nintendo version. And oh my gosh, like, I'm sorry. I never need to touch Vile mode again. I don't think that is fun.
I don't think you love your retro achievements, but sometimes your addiction is hurtful to yourself.
Well, I mean, that's how most addictions are, right?
Yeah.
62 hours of Command and Conquer over Christmas break. And 64 version of Command and Conquer over Christmas break. Good times. But anyway, yeah, Vile mode, it's great if you want to have... If you really enjoy difficult games like Ghost Schools type stuff, like Vile mode's for you. It's not for me. I don't care for that crap. Like, I like to have a good time. So yeah, Vile mode, like, it's up there with the MS-DOS port and just being, I never need to touch this again. But again, the PSP version gave us that animation prequel, which was so cool. It gives us more expanded character personalities as well, and for the most part, that is super cool. I don't understand why they made Launch Octopus an artist. It's like dude's heavy artillery, and you made him an artist. Like, okay.
Well, because
Yeah,
with all
like
the
the
tentacles, he can obviously paint faster than everyone else. He's an artist. Duh.
I mean, I guess
Yeah.
even his explosion is beautiful. Like, I don't get it. Um, like they made
Look,
Storm Eagle
we were
super
going down the
cool.
list of anime tropes, and we needed an artist. Okay,
True,
stop
that's
asking
true. That's true.
questions.
They made Storm Eagle just so cool. Like Storm Eagle was already like one of the coolest bosses. They just made him even more cool. Like they had a good voice actor for him and everything. Like it was great. Like Storm Eagle remains the best. Oh man. Side note, just a little offshoot here because it's Mega Man X related. We kind of talked about this last month during the Halo 2 discussion, but I used to be part of a Halo 2 modding crew. And so one of the mods that I made was a Mega Man X inspired coagulation map.
Ooh,
So redid all the weapons to be Mega Man X.
that's awesome.
Mega Man X themed. And so the plasma rifles were Storm Eagle. And you would just shoot it at the ground. It didn't do any damage, but it had massive knockback. So you'd shoot someone with it, and they'd go flying across the map. Or you could aim it at the ground and shoot it, and you would go flying across the map. And so, again, that was because I love Storm Eagle. I thought Storm Eagle was super cool, and so it was just really fun. So it was Mega Man Nation instead of Coagulation. And all the vehicles were renamed to ride armors. Like it was a fun time. But just a little Mega Man X related thing there that also ties into our last month discussion of Halo 2.
Nice.
But yeah. I don't really have much else to say about Mega Man X. The original game used a password system. PSP version uses a save system, and then all the re-releases on GameCube and modern platforms have implemented a save system. That just automatically enter a password for you. So I'm happy that this is a game that is readily accessible to everybody, regardless of where they play. It has been readily available no matter when you want to play it, honestly. Like, it was on Super Nintendo first. We didn't see anything for it on N64, PS1, or Saturn. But on GameCube, PS2, we got a remake, or the re-release for it, so it was accessible then. For the Wii, it came out on the Virtual Console. It was on Wii U Virtual Console. And then, of course, the modern collection in 2018. So the game is still playable on every modern platform, PS5, Xbox Series, and PC and Switch. Switch 2 will be back compat, so that collection is still playable on it. So it is a very easily accessible game, and I am grateful to that because it is truly one of those games that I think everyone needs to play. It's like one of those games that's just such an all-time classic. Everyone should play it. And
yeah, you can't call yourself an elite gamer if you don't play it. You don't have to love it, but you do have to play it.
yeah,
Just give it a try. See if it speaks to you. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because again, beautiful sprite work, very well done, one of the best on the system in my mind. Absolutely top-notch soundtrack and a good story to go along with it. So amazing game. And that's honestly where I'm going to leave it off. But yeah, do you want to give us any closing thoughts, guys? Go ahead.
I mean, if you like Metroidvania games, it's not, I wouldn't say it's a Metroidvania, but if you like 2D side scrollers with shooting aspects, it's perfect. Give it a go.
Yep. Love me some Mega Man. Like I said, this is my first foray into the Mega Man game universe, and just love it. Sparked many unnecessary purchases. owning multiple copies of this game for no sensible reason. And you mentioned, I was
We've
like,
all
oh yeah,
done it.
I got the PSP version over there that I forgot to bring over. That was sealed until this Game of the Month discussion, and I opened it so that I could give it a try and actually speak to it instead of just be like, yeah, I watched Ice play it. I opened my sealed copy for you.
Very nice, very nice.
Wasn't worth it. Yeah. No,
Oh man.
but no,
Yeah.
it's like I'm a big Mega Man X fan. I have tons of nostalgia, but it's just fun. It's a game that I play through at least once a year,
Mm-hmm.
and
Same.
so it's it's just great fun.
Same.
And we won't play it here because we don't want to DMCA poor ice. But we're talking about the soundtrack. YouTube, search Power Glove Storm Eagle
Mm.
to get a really sweet metal cover of Storm Eagle's song.
Oh, there was shoot, I forgot what they're called. It was a Hispanic group, I believe, that covered the entire soundtrack for the game as
Ooh,
well. That
nice.
was done.
Well, they
I
chose
can't
to
remember
cover
who
the
it
most
was.
important song, so they're
Yeah,
good.
exactly.
Yep, Power
Um,
Glove, Storm Eagle. Do
yeah,
yourself a favor, check it out.
yeah. And I mean, if you end up liking Mega Man X, if you've never played it, you decide to go play it and you really enjoy it, be sure to check out X2. Super well done as well. I'm not as big a fan of X3. It's still solid, but they added a lot more fake difficulty to it that I didn't enjoy as much. Um, and then X4, I think, is my favorite of the PS1 era games. X5 kind of grew on me after 20 years. I still hate X6 to this day. And then X7 and X8 are pretty forgettable, but at least X8 is kind of a classic Mega Man X game again compared to 7. So
Seven's rubbish.
7's rough. I can appreciate them wanting to try something new, and at least it's better than 6. And that's not really saying much because 6 is a 0 out of 0, 0 out of 10 game in my mind. But anyway, definitely a like it does suffer from franchise fatigue, just like the classic Mega Man games did. X5 was supposed to be the end of the games, but for anyone that didn't know, X5 was supposed to lead into Mega Man 01 on Game Boy Advance, make it a new franchise, but then Capcom decided to make another Mega Man X game, rushed out the door without the original creator, and that's why X6 is a piece of trash. You'll never convince me otherwise. But yeah, anyway,
Are you gonna make him cry?
I don't care, dude. He's a whiny little piece of crap in that game anyway.
Hmm.
Anyway, but yeah, X. Yeah, anyway. I think it's a franchise that's worth playing all 8 entries in just to experience once, even though 6 is a 0 out of 10 game.
Why
Um,
would you wish 7 on a person? Why
because at
though?
least because it's a 1 out of 10 game instead of a 0 out of a 10 game.
Dang.
See, I don't feel like you recommend 1 out of 10 games to people though.
I recommend you try them once if you like
I
the
see. I
franchise.
I
I
might
said if you like
recommend
the franchise.
I might recommend watching a speed run once, maybe, but to make someone actually play it and to inflict the suffering upon them is cruel. Why? Why do that?
Because you
They didn't
have to
look.
experience Blaze Hyenard at least once.
Look, tricking a hated enemy into playing it is one thing. Just unleashing it on your viewers is uncalled for.
Oh, it's so good. Oh man. Nah. Yeah, honestly, 6 and 7 can be skipped. I think 8 is worth a playthrough. At least once. No, you should do it at least twice because then you get to play the second playthrough as a complete bad A and that actually makes it fun. Um but yeah. 1 through 4. Hi. 12-year-old. 1 through 4 are at least great.
Like
X5
busting
is
the
okay.
props.
I used to hate X5 as much as X6, but then when I started doing my like franchise playthroughs on stream all the time, it's like, yeah. Yeah. And if you want to own them on physical cartridge, buy the Japanese versions of X2 and 3. You can at least afford them then, because North American copies, terrible. Terrible. But anyway, guys, thank you for joining me again to talk about Mega Man X. Really
Mhm.
love talking about Mega Man X. It's one of those
Yeah.
games.
Yeah.
One of
So
those
always
games.
a pleasure.
I think I've beaten this game more than any other game like in my entire life. It's up there with Command and Conquer.
I was like, it's really high up there for me. It's like I'd say it's easily in my list of top 10 Super Nintendo games.
Oh yeah, easily. Yeah. Yeah, I think in terms of games I've beaten the most, it's like X, Command and Conquer, Halo 5 because I speedran it, then like Halo 1. Like That's it.
I love how quick you had to justify Halo 5 before everyone pounced on you for why would you have completed that so many
Dude,
times.
it had a good speed run, man. Like that's the only redeeming thing about Halo 5's campaign. It had an
I
amazing
was gonna say
speed run.
when you skip all the cutscenes, when you skip all the stories, is it a fun game to play?
No, see that's the thing. Halo 5 was not a bad game to play. It had great mechanics. It had great shooting mechanics. It had great movement mechanics. It just had a freaking awful story with some awful level design in it. But when you
And it had
speedrun it,
nothing
it
to
was
do with
fun.
Halo.
There was some
I
fun
will.
tricks in speedrunning Halo 5.
Yeah. If
Yeah,
it
but I
played,
mean,
say what? Okay. If
no,
Halo 5 had
Tangent.
its own, if Halo 5 was its own IP set in like a cyberpunk world, it would have been, and a good story, it would have been freaking awesome. But as a Halo game, no.
It's because they rewrote it in the 11th hour and shipped that crap. Listen to Hunt the Truth, and you did not get the game that was leading up to, unfortunately.
Yeah, like 3 for 3, the only thing that they excel at is
Continuation of last
retconning their
month.
own work.
It's a
The only thing they
continuation of last
excel at
month's
is
discussion now.
hey, who can forget such memorable moments as having a nuclear bomb in your hand, activating it,
That's Halo
but
4.
still teleporting away?
That's
you
Halo
know?
4.
Yeah, still. It's got that same stank on it.
Oh, my favorite part
The
is,
writing.
like where
Ugh.
you have your enemy right where you want him in your forced choke, and instead of killing him right there, you just put him down gently so he can totally come back and kill you later. That's great writing. I love it.
Oh, man. All right, I guess we're doing
And
Halo 5 one of these months.
No, not with me. I'm gonna be sick that month.
yeah.
All right. Anyway, Mega Man X. It's available on all modern platforms. Go play it. You must. It is mandatory. Thanks again for joining me, guys. We will continue this tangent when we eventually do Halo 5.
Without
In
me.
10 years.
Well, thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again
Yep.
for hopping on. Appreciate it. We'll see you all
Yep.
back next month for Game of the Month, and it looks like it's going to be Advance Wars. Good stuff.
Ooh.
Take it easy, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.